Welcome to the latest edition of the 8 o'clock spot live here on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. I am your host / moderator, Bryson Carver. Episode 14. It's going to be a jam-packed one. We've got not one, not two, not three, but 4 contestants. Sound like Miami LeBron James there for a second. We got 4 fantastic contestants, a brand new one this week. But I'll start with a man who, let's just say, is not as happy as me about how his football team played this Sunday. Let's start with Devin Nettles, the host of the At the Bank podcast here on the Gryd Network. Devin, we're going to get into your Ravens today. How you still reeling after Sunday, man?
I'm here. This is all I can say, man. It's that defeat, man. I can't wait to talk about that because I am going to let my Ravens have it, boy. I tell you.
Listen, I don't blame you. That's another double-digit lead. They get blown. Well, again, we'll get into the Ravens a little later on today's show. Also, to Mike Guido, he was just talking to me before the show. He's still salty about last week coming up short against our guy John Rivera. Shout out to John last week at the 8 o'clock spot. Are you okay? Have you cooled off a little bit, Mike?
Yeah, I've had a week to think about it, and I'm still kind of mad, but I'm okay now. I'll take my 30 seconds real quick to talk about how, and you're going to like this, Bryson, okay? And this is not just me sucking up to the moderator because I don't do that. But I'm going to take my 30 seconds here to take a stab at Yankee fans a little bit because I know that everybody's all fed up with how Brian Cashman's going to the media. Those are the exact same fans that say this is the franchise that never holds anybody accountable, that, kept Josh Donaldson in the lineup when he was hitting 140, and now hey, listen, Stanton's probably going to get hurt again. Well, that's true. He probably will get hurt again. So I like seeing this side of Brian Cashman. So thank you for that platform. And I can tell the little smile on your face. You like me calling out Yankee fans, don't you?
Of course. I mean, I'm thinking about giving you some bonus points. That's fantastic. I can't stand Yankee fans. Again, now Mike's an exception. Again, I always say, I don't know how me and Mike are friends because he's a Cavs fan. I'm a Warriors fan. He's a Yankees fan. I'm a Red Sox fan. And we disagree on Dak Prescott and Josh Allen, but yet and still, we're still friends. We find a way to get along somehow, some way. Our newest contestant this week, did not mean for my voice to crack there, Dylan Lima. Am I saying your name correctly, Dylan?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so you are the newest addition to the 8 o'clock spot, sir. Again, you get 30 seconds here, man. How you doing?
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. My page is in shambles, but my Celtics are up. So, I'm about dead even right now.
Listen, it's the Boston's playing very well. They are, right now probably the favorites to win the NBA championship. They're my favorites to get to the finals this year out east. So props to your Celtics. And finally, AJ Alexander Johnson from the Cowboys CanFan podcast, 1/3 of the trio. If you could unmute your mic there for me, man. We got again great guests. Always love having any of the CanFan guys on. Cowboys mollywhopping the Giants on Sunday. AJ, how you feeling about that?
Hey, look, my attitude throughout the week is typically shaped by the results on Sunday or Thursday or Monday, given what happens. My heart does go out to all those Ravens fans. That was a brutal game we were watching going into the Cowboys. So it shook me up a little because I'm like, are they going to hand that mojo to the Cowboys now? But luckily, look, a victory even against the Giants is very sweet. So.
Divisional wins are the best. We can all agree on that. All right, so before we get into any of our topics, let's go and real quick look at the leaderboard. Of course, Dylan, you'll be a part of this leaderboard at show's end. But again, you got Barry Grant Jr. Still in first place, although Alfred Parsler Jr. still on his heels, followed by Devin, Mike, Dalton, John Rivera, Adam from the Cowboys CanFan podcast, Alex from the Cowboys CanFan podcast, and Eric Van Linton from the Outside the Cage podcast here at the Gryd Network. So let's get into our first round rules. It's quite simple, folks. A great take gives you 200 points. A good take gives you 100 points. Okay take gives you 50, and a bad take, you come home empty-handed. You get 0 points. Let's move on to let's start with our first topic. A great game last night between the Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. Denver wins 24-22 on a walk-off field goal, but a disappointing loss to the Bills. They fall to 5-5. Obviously, a lot of expectations to this team coming into the season. Josh Allen and the Bills offense turned the ball over 4 times during the game, fumble by Allen, 2 interceptions, and a fumble by James Cook. So, again, a bad day for the Bills offense. And again, coaching-wise, situationally, they weren't very good. 12 men on the field on the field goal at the end, which Denver, of course, took advantage and ended up walking off there when it was all said and done. So I will start with you, Devin. Who is more to blame for the Bills' disappointing first 10 games of the season? Is it the quarterback, Josh Allen, or is it the head coach, Sean McDermott?
I'm going to go with a little spin on this. I'm going to go with the head coach, Sean McDermott, man. We already know who Josh Allen really is. He's the gunslinger. He's the Brett Favre 2.0. He's the guy that's really going to try to thread the needles. He's the guy that that the Bills really trusted to run their offense the last 3 to 4 years. They felt like Josh Allen is the guy. They felt like that Josh Allen is the key piece to even beat Kansas City in Arrowhead. So we kind of already know what we kind of getting from Josh Allen because we done seen the failures from Josh Allen going up to Arrowhead and not winning the AFC Championship. And then we started asking if the Bills windows starting to close. And the reason why I chose Sean McDermott is for the simple fact that that defense has not changed since he has been head coach. He has lost. That defense has always been taking a step back, even when they went and got pieces to try to make them go forward. They added Von Miller, and that was supposed to be Von Miller was the last key piece that the Bills really needed on that defense to put pressure on the quarterback. Von Miller gets hurt. Von Miller is nowhere to be found now. Von Miller is not really giving you that Von Miller stats as he used to before this injury. I'm looking at the Sean McDermott did not do any key pieces, add any key pieces after he losing Tre'Davious White, your top corner. Tre'Davious White has been injured the last at least the last 2 years. You still haven't tried to find nobody that can play behind him that he can groom to be that natural cornerback that you want. Matt Milano is also another injury bug that always in and out the lineup. The Bills never shored up that linebacker core, in my opinion, to make sure to solidify that middle, because that's where Buffalo gets beat, in the middle of that run defense. And then if you look at the Bills' losses, they lost to the Jets. They gave up 22 points. They lost to the Jaguars, gave up 25 points. They lost to the Patriots, gave up 29 points to the Patriots. They lost 24 points. They lost to the Broncos, gave up 24 points. The defense is now averaging 18.4 points a game. I think that McDermott really did not pay attention to that defense. They was mainly just focused on that offense. So I gave it to the head coach.
That's fair, and again, obviously, we know Sean McDermott is a defensive head coach, so that's something that it's kind of we get on Brandon Staley in LA for the fact that he's a defensive coach. The Chargers are horrible defensively, so you have that component onto it as well. Moving on to Mike Guido, do you think this falls more on the quarterback Josh Allen or the head coach Sean McDermott for the Bills' 5-5 start?
So this may surprise you, Bryson Carver, because you know how I feel about Josh Allen. But it does fall primarily on Josh Allen. And listen, I say this all the time. And when it comes to, I have a general rule about football. If you turn the ball over, you're going to lose more games than you win, right? And that's exactly what Josh Allen does. I think Josh Allen is one of the very rare quarterbacks that we can say this thing about. He's the absolute extreme of both sides. He is the reason they win and the reason they lose. It's very rare that you see Josh Allen have an average game. He's either incredible or he's awful. So when he doesn't play up to what everybody says is his elite standard, Buffalo has a hard time moving the football, right? And it's the same thing the other way around. However, I do think that this is a big part of it because Josh Allen is not having a bad year. He leads the league in turnovers. I understand all that, but he's still completing 70% of his throws. He's got 2,600 yards this season. He's thrown for 19 touchdowns. Like, he's still an electric offensive player. I do want to point this out, though. Sean McDermott is not the reason they're losing, but I do think that they've reached their ceiling with him. I'm not sure that anybody, I don't know that the Bills will be any better than what they are right now with Sean McDermott as their head coach. And what Devin said is exactly right. I mean, if you look at the defensive side of the football, they've really kind of struggled developing defensive talent under him. This is McDermott's side of the ball. They've struggled. They drafted Kyer Elam in the first round. He's turned out to be not really much of anything. They let Tremaine Edmonds go in free agency, which I thought was a huge mistake. And now they're left pretty much with nothing. I know they like Terrell Bernard, but since Matt Milano and Trey White have both gotten hurt, you can see the impact it's had on that defense. Von Miller is continuing he's getting more hurt and he's getting older, and you're seeing that weigh on him. So I think right now the fault primarily goes on Josh Allen. I think their record serves way better than what they're showing right now if he's turning the ball over less. But I also think that Buffalo's in a tough position. Sean McDermott's not a bad head coach, but I don't know that he's the guy that's going to take them to the promised land. It's a very throw a little
10
Warriors,
seconds, Mike.
throw a little Warriors analogy at you. Sean McDermott's Mark Jackson. They need Steve Kerr.
It's so funny you said that. I literally said that verbatim last week. I don't know if you watched Carving It Up or just trying to take from my material or whatever. I may have to dock you points for that. I don't know.
But yeah, didn't. No, I actually did not.
That's a great net. No, and Mark Jackson, I think, is an excellent head coach and should still be a head coach in the NBA. And I'm not saying Sean McDermott is just, incompetent, but that's a fair criticism to have. There's no question about it. To you, Dylan, again, you're a Patriots fan. So listen, obviously we're not going to talk a ton of Patriots. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but you obviously don't have a whole lot of love for the Bills. Does this fall more on Josh Allen or does it fall on Sean McDermott?
It's 100% on Josh Allen. And I'm going to be quite frank. When your defense is only giving up 18 points per game, that's a very small margin of error if you're still losing those games. If Josh Allen's truly an elite quarterback, firmly every single year in, year out, we always see Josh Allen's in the top 3 quarterback debate easily. It's Mahomes, it's Josh Allen, and then you can pick your third quarterback after that. But if you're truly an elite quarterback, you have to be able to win games, even when things aren't going your way. And it is very clear when you look at games like against the Raiders and against the Dolphins, when he puts up 3-4 touchdowns, he doesn't turn over the ball, they smoke them. They plain simple. But then you have games that, you lose against the Bengals, you only give up 24. You lose against the Broncos, solely on the special teams, if anything, for having too many men in the field. It's still unacceptable that you're even letting that happen. And obviously McDermott does share the blame because he is the head coach, of course, but he is a very defensive coach. And considering the injuries and, Josh Allen's supposed to be that field general. And outside of Diggs, you really look at that offense and it's like Gabe Davis isn't consistent. Kincaid's very good, and I think he should get the ball more often. But it's almost like as if Josh Allen has tunnel vision if he doesn't see Diggs open or if his read is not what he expects to see. And turnovers, again, just like what Mike was saying, turnovers play a key factor with this because obviously Josh Allen loves to throw interceptions, and I think he doesn't know how to slide at all. So, he has his fair share of hard hits and fumbles, and that's always a key problem when he's tucking and running, that he can't slide safely. So Josh Allen clearly has some real faults, and I don't quite see how he can be truly elite or in the Mahomes conversation when Mahomes has way less targets, and he's still week in and week out still doing great with what he has. So I don't see why Allen should be treated any differently.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point. It's why I've said about Josh is it's not just the turnovers. Like we see the turnovers in the stat sheet. Like that's something. And again, not all turnovers are created equal. Some, like he threw a pass early in the game, should have been caught by Gabe Davis, got picked by the safety. Like not all turnovers are his fault, but you mentioned sort of and I've called it like the reckless plays, like trying to hurdle linebackers, lowering your shoulder into defensive linemen or front seven guys. Like that's something he's got to take out of his game. And some of that is just because he's a big athlete and that's kind of in his DNA. But yeah, that's something he's got to take out. And again, we are now 6 years in. I'm not really sure you can at this point. But that's interesting. 100% on Josh Allen. I don't even know if I'm not even like a Josh Allen like zealot, but I don't even know if I go that far. But that's a fair point. I'll go to you now, Alex. Here, do you think this is the Bills' 5-5 start is more on Josh Allen or on Sean McDermott?
Look, I always try to be consistent with these things. I don't watch enough of the Bills to necessarily see the play, but I look at stats, okay, and I obviously see highlights. I blame the coach in these scenarios, but I'll tell you why. I think Allen is out there. He's playing football, but he shouldn't be responsible for the hype that people put on his shoulders, number one. And QBs do have bad years. And Allen has been, he's throwing up prayers in some cases, and they're getting picked off, right? They're not being answered. So he's made some bad throws, but my biggest concern for him is that he's only had 2 games this season with 0 interceptions. But we have to look at the context of that. And I'm a big PFF guy. So I went and looked at Allen's stats. And this is actually his lowest turnover-worthy play rate in his career this year, believe it or not, 2.4%. That's actually really reasonable. They lost to Denver by 2. They lost to the Jets in OT. So you could make the argument they should be 7-3. I wonder if that would twist people's perspective around. But this is the reason that I put the blame on McDermott is he's the coach and he needs to be able to see these things and put people, because that's not a side of his ball that he's watching, put people into a position to help Allen. This is nothing new for Allen. He has had 39 interceptions the last 3 seasons, not including this year. That's 13 average a year. And he's had 71 in his career since he started. Almost all seasons have been double-digit interceptions. That comes down to the coach just not having someone, in my opinion, who's going to able to make those little corrections that are going to make big differences on the field. And I think McDermott agrees with me, because if I'm not wrong, Ken Dorsey just got canned, and he's been with the Bills since 2019 as a QB coach, game coordinator, and then most recently the offensive coordinator. So if you do have belief in Allen, you have to blame McDermott. He's just not put the people in the position to correct those little mistakes that will have a huge difference and a huge impact on the game.
That's interesting, and I apologize. I should have mentioned that earlier in my preamble about how Ken Dorsey was fired today after only basically a season and a half as the Bills offensive coordinator. But that's really interesting. I didn't know that his turnover rate was or turnover worthy rate was that low. It only, what did you say, 2.4%? Like that's actually for Josh Allen especially, that's quite impressive. So that's I never thought about from that perspective. Before we get to our point totals, let's go to the comment section. Our guy Barry Garrett Jr. again, the point leader. I don't know if he's just trying to get attention here or whatever, but he says he basically just copied Micah. It sounds like Sean McDermott has hit his ceiling as a defensive head coach, and it's not his fault. They can fire Ken Dorsey, but this iteration of the team has ran its course, trying to get time to get a young offensive mind for Allen. It's why I suggested after they lost to the Patriots, I think this was 3-4 weeks ago, that they should seriously consider firing McDermott and bringing in Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. He's going to have about as big of a market as a head coach as anybody, unless obviously Jim Harbaugh enters the fray as well. So let's get to our point totals real quick. Let's see, where's Devin Nettles? A good take by Devin. The only reason I didn't give you a great take, Devin, is because you mentioned, Von Miller. You mentioned sort of these players, not producing. Some of that, in terms of the personnel they have there, is not quite on the coaching. Some of that's on the front office and maybe not bringing in the right guys. The contract they give Von Miller is still just what they gave him, a 6-year deal at this stage of his career. I think is insane. But that's, you still made some fair points. Let's see who went next. Mike. There he is. Okay, great take by Mike Guido. He was discussing Josh Allen's inability to, Josh Allen's inability to kind of see the field in terms of, seeing what's there. Let's move on to Dylan. Great take by Dylan. And then finally to Alex, great take by him as well. So great takes, 3 out of 4. Devin, though, listen, he's a previous champion, so he still very much has a chance to get back into the mix here. Second round rules. Again, everything gets double, okay? A great take gives you 400 points. A good take gives you 200. An okay take gives you 100. And a bad take gives you 0 points still, as we see here today. We're moving on now to the San Francisco 49ers, who absolutely throttled, and I do mean throttled, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had previously had the longest winning streak in the National Football League, 34-3. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco offense were absolutely sensational. Deebo Samuel back in the lineup was effective. Christian McCaffrey, though, had his long touchdown streak snaps, but Brock Purdy had a pass rating of 148, so he was spectacular. Obviously, the Niners defense spectacular as well. Chase Young, new guy added to the lineup, was making plays all over the place. So I'll start with you, Mike Guido. It's as simple as this. Are the 49ers officially back?
No, they're not officially back because they never actually left. Listen, I've made this point about the 49ers for the last month. They lost their 3-game. They had that 3-game losing streak, and I think it's primarily because no Trent Williams and no Deebo Samuel, and especially no Deebo Samuel, right? What do you know? Their first game where they get Deebo Samuel back, the offense gets back and gets back going. Right? You see more pre-snap motion. You see more deception in that offense because they can use Deebo Samuel in more ways than most coaches can use any other player, right? This is what it is. When Deebo Samuel is in that offense, Brock Purdy's more efficient. The offense is more creative. Listen, they don't have to win in the prettiest ways. This is a big throttling win, and I know that everybody's disappointed that Christian McCaffrey didn't score his touchdown. But listen, this is a team that added to their defensive line. This is already one of the stronger defensive teams in the NFL. They have one of the best offensive coaches that I've ever seen in my life. This is a very creative offense. I think adding Deebo Samuel back into this offense gives them everything that they were missing before. And truly, I think that was the big issue. I really do. Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel back into the offense. I'm not sure they ever left. So no, they're not back because they never left.
Interesting take. Listen, it's the same roster, and I still maintain that they're the best roster in football, just in terms of what they have offensively and defensively. And again, when I heard Trent Williams this week, I forget who said it because I want to give him credit, but I heard Trent Williams in terms of his dominance be compared to prime Shaquille O'Neal. And honestly, I kind of see what they're talking about just from a physical presence. I mean, he does not allow pressures, does not give up sacks. So he's a special player. And you mentioned Debo as well, Mike Guido. To you now, AJ, obviously you're a Cowboys fan. By the way, so is Mike, but you're a Cowboys fan. You obviously don't care too much for the 49ers, but are they back? Are they officially back after this win over the Jaguars?
Well, look, Mike said it first, but I'm going to say it better, okay? The 49ers were never gone, all right? It's very true. That 3-week skid hit a point where Samuel went out for, I think, 3 weeks or got injured in week 6, was out for 2 weeks. Same thing, I think, pretty much happened with Trent Williams. He got roughed up in week 6 and was out week 7 to 8. And McCaffrey as well, 6 and 7. He had an oblique injury or something where he was removed from the game. I think it was later in the game, but he was banged up too. So it was kind of this mixing of all of those 3 things on offense. And it showed, because in that time from week 6 to 8, the San Francisco 49ers were scoring an average of 17 points compared to every other week. The average is 33.5 points. I don't think they scored less than 30 points in a game. So, I mean, that goes to tell. It was lovely as a Cowboys fan to watch and to kind of get excited about. But after kind of looking at this, they're still a scary team, and I wouldn't be expected for that. I'm not unexpecting that they're going to run the rest of the way without losing. So they just were never gone. But to be polite and answer your question, yes, they are officially back if you think that they were gone.
Yeah, under the context, if I did think they were gone. But yeah, that's a great point. And you sort of mentioned that they could very easily run the table. And their schedule is tough. They do still play Philadelphia later in the season, I think in week 12. But, if you look at what San Francisco did last year, they were 4-4. They were kind of playing average football. I remember they got blown out by Kansas City, and then they reeled off 9 straight wins to end the regular season. And who knows, if not for Brock Purdy's elbow basically exploding during the game, they might have very well got to the Super Bowl. So, props to them. And they've shown to reel off some wins in November, December, and January, and certainly in the playoffs as well. So good points there, AJ. To you, Dylan, do you think the San Francisco 49ers are back?
You know what? I'm going to say, yes, they are back. Because, and quite frankly, I'm saying this because 49ers are practically a perfect roster. Top to bottom, every single position, even their fullback. Kyle Juszczyk's a friggin' monster. But I think their biggest weakness ends up being Brock Purdy at the end of the day. He is a common denominator where everything needs to go right his way. And he needs his offense to be at full power, because clearly when he's missing weapons and his selection of weapons goes down, he struggles. And you're going against teams like the Vikings that they're not particularly known for their defense. I mean, the Browns, they have a good defense. So I can't really fault them for that game. And then the Bengals, they have such a good offense. Once you get behind, it's hard to really keep pace. But regardless, I feel like Purdy, he's a smart quarterback. He makes the right decisions. But when things aren't available for him, he will flounder and he will make mistakes. And obviously, he's human at the end of the day. But in a sense, if 49ers hit another injury bug, and let's just say McCaffrey goes down and they lose that running factor, and Brock Purdy is going to be the sole person that's going to have to lead them to victories, I'm not sure how excited I'm going to be about the Niners come playoff time. But this is all fans are butts. But for right now, I think the Niners are back.
Listen, I'll say now what I've said for a while. If Brock Purdy is the weak link of the San Francisco 49ers, that team is freaking terrifying. And I'm not out here saying that Brock Purdy is the MVP of the league. I'm not saying he's even a top 10 guy. And you sort of mentioned, I agree with you that you said that if things aren't going well, Brock Purdy is obviously not going to be successful, and the Niners offense is going to struggle. But if they are going well, he flourishes. And for the record, that's more than you could say about a lot of quarterbacks. So this is the best guy they've had, certainly in my opinion, in the Shanahan era, certainly over Jimmy G, and no question over Trey Lance. To you finally, Devin, are the 49ers, after this dominating win over Jacksonville, are they back?
The question should be, are they back to winning? Yes, they are back to winning, because the simple fact that Brock Purdy he wasn't that bad of a quarterback when he didn't have his key pieces there. When he didn't have Debo, when he didn't have Trenton Williams, that Brock Purdy was still having San Francisco coming out to nail-biter games. So now that the fact that he have his key pieces, now we can see the real flourish of Brock Purdy and how that system can really elevate. Because then once you take away some of the key pieces, we've seen that the San Francisco, not only their offense went flatline, their defense was also taking some hits also. So I think that now once you get your key pieces, then now that the San Francisco 49ers, because like AJ said, the 49ers can really start scoring 30-something points a game. They are a hard team to beat. You're not really beating the San Francisco 49ers, and then that's where their defense starting to flourish because their offense has put out so many points and have gave them a nice head start. Their defense is now can play that physical and hands-on type style defense. So as long as the San Francisco 49ers have their key pieces back, even on the offense and defensive side, the 49ers are a scary team because like you said, if Brock Purdy is the weak link, then who is the other links that's ahead of Brock Purdy? You still got Greenlaw, you still got Warner, you still got Kittle, you still got Samuel, you still got CMC. So it's like the links can go very long. So I think that as long as the San Francisco can stay healthy, they are this most scariest team in the NFL.
And you mentioned about how, they're back to scoring 30 and their defense, obviously you mentioned they did struggle and they did over that 3-game losing streak. Certainly that game is to Cincinnati. What I think is kind of interesting. And it's, I talked about this yesterday in my show, carving it up. It's like the only minor flaw, I guess you can find this 49ers team, and we saw at times in the 3-game losing streak, is that they're almost like the Mike Tyson in the NFL. Like if they've got a physical advantage over you, they are going to beat you down. They are going to humiliate you. They're going to embarrass you. But if you're like Cincinnati's a prime example, if you punch back, and you got the physical capability to do so, then it's a little bit of a contest. So that's, again, the only downside of San Francisco. Other than that, they're playing unbelievable football. This has become a trend on the 8 o'clock spot. I don't know what's going on, but again, I got a call like I see it. Let's put the points up. Everybody across the board. Great takes across the board, y'all. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause because that was great stuff by everybody here. It's not just that I agree with you, but it's I think y'all gave great takes in general. Moving on to the third round rules before we get into the final round, which involves the top 2 point getters. So high stakes here, but the third and final round involving all the contestants. A great take gives you 800 points. A good take gives you 400 points. An okay take gives you 200. A bad take still goose egg, still 0 points. Close your eyes, Devin. Close your ears because we're going to talk about your Baltimore Ravens, who lost to the Cleveland Browns by a final score of 33-31 in Baltimore. Nonetheless, this is arguably the hottest team in the NFL. They blow a 14-point fourth quarter lead. They blow a 17-3 first half lead. I think at one point they were up 24-9 as well in the second half. Lamar Jackson throws a pick six. Deshaun Watson goes 14 for 14 passing in the second half, and the Browns come back and walk it off on a Dustin Hopkins field goal. A lot of walk-off field goals, by the way, over this Week 10 NFL weekend. But I'll start with you, AJ. Is it time to be, despite how good they've been over the course of the season, is it time to have a little bit of a concern for the Baltimore Ravens this year?
I wouldn't be panicking, so I would say there's no concern. Like, they still are a top 3 defense. What happened to them, what I saw is they got stuck in quicksand and they couldn't get out, and that's a very real thing. Even though my sports career goes to a C-level elementary, but still, when you're in a funk, and basketball players will talk about this a lot, or golfers, you can't get out of it. And it looked like it was a bad combination of the Browns hitting their stride and then the Ravens starting to stumble. They almost were able to fight them off, but I look at that game. It was their overall on their defense the second worst rating game, and I think if you were looking just at those last 2 quarters of the game, it would ultimately be those would be those worst 2 quarters that they've played all season, maybe for a couple of years too. But looking at their next 4 weeks, they have a nice string of bounce back games against some pretty mid-tier teams in the Bengals, Chargers, Rams, and Jags, at least for offense. So right now, I'd say no, there's no concern moving forward. You come out of these next 4 weeks 50-50, okay, then maybe there's something to be concerned about, but I'm not right now.
Yeah, and an optimistic Ravens fan, which we'll see if Devin is in just a second or not after Dylan here, but an optimistic Ravens fans could say, hey, listen, divisional familiarity. Obviously, first of all, Cleveland's a very good football team. I don't want to shortchange them in any way. That's an awesome defense. Offensively, they seem to be kind of clicking right now. Deshaun has looked, again, not anything like the Houston Deshaun, but as good as he's looked in a Browns uniform to this point. I think they're well coached. So divisional familiarity can get a little dicey in those situations. There's no mysteries in terms of what the coaches and what the game plans are going to present themselves. So good points there, AJ. To you, Dylan, now, is it time for the Ravens to feel not panic necessarily, but a little concerned?
I would definitely be concerned. And the reason why I say that is because, they're 7-3. They have a very talented roster, and they've been putting up points. They've been playing great defense. But 2 of their 3 losses are division rivals. So they're on very thin ice at the moment. If they lose to the Bengals next week, and hypothetically, let's just say the Steelers win their divisional games, then they're going to lose that tiebreaker. They won't have a home playoff game come playoffs. I think they'll still be a playoff team regardless because, Bengals, it could be a winnable game. Chargers and Rams will be fine. Same with the Jaguars. But you have Niners, Dolphins, and Steelers at the end. And I think the AFC North is, year in, year out, one of the most brutal divisions when it comes to interdivisional play. Just, even with teams like the Browns, where Deshaun Watson started bad and then he played amazing. And the Browns, where I personally consider them always like the locale of that, division, and they're creeping up too. So the Ravens can't take their foot off the gas. They just got to go pedal to the metal, and they got to keep winning. Luckily, they have a late bye week, so they can recoup. But if they lose their divisional games, they're going to be in very tough spot come playoff time.
Yeah, and that AFC North is no question the toughest division. I mean, I remember last week, every single team was at least two games above 500. Obviously, the Bengals losing to Houston. We'll get into CJ Stroud in our final segment. But yeah, that's not just a brutal division. It's a physical division. It's a well-coached division. Even the so-called, so to speak, mid quarterbacks like a Kenny Pickett, like to this point at least, Deshaun Watson, seem to be really good in clutch time in the fourth quarter. So, but yeah, there's not a lot of margin for error between any of the 4 teams, and the Ravens certainly experienced that on Sunday. Now to the man of the hour, the Ravens fan here. Devin, is it time for your Ravens to be a little concerned? I say that a little bit of bass in my voice, the Steelers fan, because I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I bet you did. I don't say it's a cause of concern, but it's time to look over your shoulder, yes. Because for the simple fact, like AJ said, man, and Dylan also alluded to that, you can't keep losing divisional games. And you can't keep losing the games that we are up double-digit margins also coming to the fourth quarter. We had this trouble all last year. There's no way in hell that we should be having this trouble all over again because now LJ is healthy. He got multiple weapons. We got a new offensive coordinator. So it's like everything should be in the Ravens' momentum and favor. The thing about it is, like AJ said, we got caught in quicksand. We went in stale mode when it got to third, coming out of halftime and fourth quarter. The offense really couldn't find that identity. They no longer ran Keaton Mitchell no more. Keaton Mitchell was a non-factor. You sat there and the offensive line was breaking down. You could see that missing Morgan Moses on that right tackle was a big hit. Then you wind up losing Ronnie Stanley on the left side, which is now you put Falalele in, which is another big hit. And then now you putting Ben Cleveland into that right guard position. So now it seems like the offensive line is starting to take a lot of hits now. And now we're starting to try to shuffle pieces in where we in quicksand already. So the offense most definitely going to have to find a way to keep that pedal going. You got to keep that momentum going because the reason why we lost 3 games this year is because we left the door wide open and the momentum swung right into the opponent's hand. You guys said, think the Colts they only scored 1 offensive touchdown. The Steelers only scored 1 offensive touchdown. We lost to the Bengals. We gave up the Browns. We gave up a late score in the fourth quarter. So as long as the Ravens cannot close the door and put their defense in better position, because that's one of the failures we also have is we keep putting our defense back on the field so quick. Too many 3-and-outs. I think the Ravens are going to have to try to adjust those.
Yeah, and this is a stat that I know you and Ravens fans are going to like, and it was actually quite surprising to me. We know they've blown double-digit leads, but since 2020, they've blown 10 double-digit leads, and obviously this is a problem. You mentioned at the beginning of last season, I remember talking about in the show, and now this has been a problem. 2 double-digit leads blown this year, 1 to my Steelers, and now 2 to the Browns. So, and that falls on everybody. This falls on what was at the time, coming into the game, the number 1 scoring defense. It falls on John Harbaugh, who I think we all agree is an excellent coach, and Lamar, who I think we'd all agree is an excellent quarterback. So it falls on everybody. There's no doubt about it. Finally, to you, Mike Guido, should the Ravens be at least a little bit concerned after that loss, blowing a double-digit lead to the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of concern. I think I'm kind of along the same line of thinking as Devin, where like I'm not going into full panic mode, but I'm definitely looking over my shoulder just because, listen, the Ravens seem to have a very crucial flaw, as good as they are. I think they have a very crucial flaw. It's that when they don't really run the football effectively, that's kind of when they get into trouble. And I don't really give anybody crap for losing to the Cleveland Browns, because this Browns defense is unbelievably amazing at every single level. They get after the quarterback. They're an insane defense. And the Ravens still were able to put up over 30 points. This is their fourth straight week with over 30 points in a game. So I don't think that they're in super duper trouble. But if you combine the fact of not being able to run the football and Lamar Jackson having his, probably first or second worst game of the year, I mean, it's just not a great recipe for winning the game. So the way that I see this is still a great roster. I still think that they're the favorite in the division. I know that Cincinnati is creeping up. I know that Cleveland, now that Deshaun Watson is back, they're starting to hit their stride. I know that this is an incredibly tough division, so you do have to look over your shoulder. But when the Ravens do in fact outgain their opponent on the ground, right? This is a running football team. This is a team that's supposed to control the time of possession, lock down on defense, use that good speedy defensive line. They stop the run really well. They have a really powerful secondary. I like how this team is put together. They're incredibly well coached. And as long as Lamar Jackson can stay efficient, then they should have no problems winning games going forward. But yeah, this loss is scary. It's a division opponent. I get it. I wouldn't be too concerned, but yeah, I'm looking over my shoulder a little bit right now.
That's fair. And again, you sort of mentioned the double-digit lead problem. And listen, that's something that I think goes a little bit under the radar, given the new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. Is he as heavy set on going with the run as Greg Roman was in the past? Lamar Jackson, no. He's more creative in that regard, especially in the passing game, spreading it around to guys like OBJ, who looked as healthy as he's looked in years, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews and company. But you mentioned, Mike, with the leg, using Lamar Jackson's legs, it is still a running football team, so that's something that they've got to take into account in the long run. Okay, so again, final rounds, the top 2 point getters, and it's funny that the number 1 and number 2 are tied, and number 3 and 4 are tied in point score. So we're just got like a clear separation here. But the two individuals going to the final round, once again, Mike Guido, congratulations, you are going back to the final round. And Devin Nettles, my friend, you are going back to the final round. Shout out to AJ and Dylan. Great job, especially Dylan. First time in the 8 o'clock spot, man. You did great. AJ, great stuff once again, fellas. We'll talk to you once the show is over. But it comes down to the final two. It is Mike Guido and I put AJ back on there. It's Mike Guido and Devin Nettles for the final round here on the 8 o'clock spot. And again, it is a winner go home. It is a do or die situation. The final round is as simple as this, folks. The winner gets 10,000 points. It is the great equalizer in this big 8 o'clock spot tournament, so to speak. The loser comes home empty-handed. He gets 0 points. So this comes into a bigger discussion. So CJ Stroud is absolutely balling out right now for the Houston Texans. So Stroud, if you look at what he's doing this year, folks, okay? 2nd in passing yards, tied for 8th in touchdown passes, 7th in passer rating, 10th in QBR, and he's got the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL. And oh, by the way, I should probably mention he's a rookie doing this for the Houston Texans in a franchise that has been a joke for the last half decade or so, and really throughout the vast majority of their brief existence as an NFL expansion franchise. But CJ Stroud's playing unbelievable. I think today he's the front runner for MVP, but I got to ask y'all, I'll start with you, Devin. Is CJ Stroud the front runner for MVP? And if he is not, who is?
I'm going to have to go ahead and bow down to this guy. And yes, in my opinion, I think CJ Stroud is. At first, I had Lamar, but the way he laid that egg to the Browns this week, man, I had to put him in 2nd or 3rd. But right now, I believe CJ Stroud is my MVP front runner. And the reason why I'm going with that is because, like you said, he is 61% completion rate. He has thrown over 2,000 passing yards. He has 15 touchdowns. He has 2 interceptions. Against the AFC, he is 3-2. He is still 61%. He has thrown over 1,500 yards. He has 7 touchdowns and 1 interception. And against the NFC, he is 2-2. He has still thrown 61% in completion percentage. He has thrown over 1,000 yards. He has 8 touchdowns, and he has 1 interception. It seems like CJ Stroud is really hit the ceiling that nobody really created for him. He's creating his own ceiling. Nobody had no beliefs in the Texans, and everybody scratched their head, was like, dang, they went CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. Is this the right decision? now that we are starting to see that D'Amico Ryans and this culture is starting to build up for the Texans, who are number 2 in their division, because I'm pretty sure everybody had them in that bottom of the division. But CJ Stroud is sitting here saying that, look at me, I'm the guy, I'm the face of this franchise. You don't have to worry about the past. I am here to the future. I am here to stay. And if he can make MVP candidate in his rookie year, I think the Texans hit a home run on this draft pick.
I mean, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns last week. A record performance for rookie this week, going to Joe Burrow's house in Cincinnati, hanging 30 and leading the team. Again, his stats aren't necessarily gaudy. Only 1 touchdown pass, threw an interception, which kind of helped the Bengals get back the game. But when it's all said and done, when the money was on the line, chips on the table, he led his team down the field to a game-winning drive. He gets a very, very good Cincinnati defense and deserves all the props in the world for that. To you, Mike, now, is CJ Stroud the MVP frontrunner? If not, who is?
No, I don't think he's the MVP frontrunner, but I don't think that should necessarily take away from how impressive he's been. And I know why people are kind of putting him up at front, because what he's doing as a rookie right now is really unprecedented by how little he's turning the ball over. 15 touchdowns to only 2 picks. It's really kind of insane. Defensive head coach, a bad offensive line, not a consistent run game, not a lot of wide receivers. Like what the kid's doing is really kind of insane. It's very, very cool what he's doing in Houston. However, he is still only completing about 61% of his throws. That's not a bad completion percentage, but it's a little bit below average. So there is still a little bit of that rookie sense in there. Listen, this is a very weird year, right? Because there really isn't that super duper standout quarterback. I know it's kind of become a quarterback award. And I know that we kind of have the argument of what the MVP actually is. Is it most valuable player, or is it just the best player? I'm going to just put that to the side for a minute. Because if it's most valuable player, then I think that provides more of a case for CJ Stroud. However, right now, I think as much as it pains me to say so.
Is he about to say it?
I think right now the favorite for me might have to be Jalen Hurts. And it's killing me, because I despise the Eagles with every inch of my being. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. But listen, this is a team with the best record in the league. This is, I think right now, what Jalen Hurts is doing, throwing the football, is incredible, because where he came from in college, where it was like, oh my God, don't throw it, just run it. And now he's completing 69% of his throws. He's got 15 touchdowns under his belt. He's got a 97 passer rating. Like, he's playing really well. And as far as just overall offensive production, he's also running for 7 touchdowns. Listen, the way that the Eagles are playing right now, they don't always win pretty, but they win ugly a lot. And Jalen Hurts has a lot to do with that. So as much as it kills me, Bryson Carver, to give the Eagles credit, to give anything Philadelphia credit, I think I have to go with Jalen Hurts. But CJ Stroud, it doesn't take anything away from what he's doing. He's been incredible this year.
Yeah, and again, I think he leads the pack. It's not by much. Hurts is very much in the race. I'm not totally going to rule Lamar out. He did have one bad game the other day, but he's still very much in the race. I think Dak's in it. I think Jared Goff is in. I mean, like, it is kind of like Mahomes. Let's not forget about that guy in Kansas City now. Like, it's a very clumped mix right now, and maybe we'll get some clarity in the next month. But yeah, Jalen Hurts. And by the way, the Eagles, kind of like, again, it's kind of similar to Houston with Stroud, but the Eagles need Jalen to play this well, because their pass defense is absolutely atrocious, and we'll see if they address that in the bye week. Both of you guys made this very difficult. I'm not going to lie. Both of you made great cases. I agree with Devin more, but both of you made fantastic cases. But the winner for this week, there's going to be one winner, and the winner for the 8 o'clock spot in week 14, episode 14, is Mike Guido. Congratulations, Mike. You are the champion once again on the 8 o'clock spots. How does it feel, Mike?
It feels great. It feels great. I feel like I'm off the proverbial schneid, Bryson. I feel like I'm in the final round every single week. And now I've taken a few L's. But now, listen, it took a couple of weeks, but I finally got revenge on my boy Devin. Thank you, Devin. I appreciate it, buddy. But it feels great, Bryson Carver. Thank you.
That's yeah. Listen, you can get off my back about last week, okay? Just you can relax last week.
Oh no. You're not off the hook.
He's still holding it over my head. He's still holding it over my head.
You're still
Whatever.
not off the hook.
May I just say,
You are the reason still. Listen, I appreciate what you did for me today. It's really, really great. But, however, you are the reason why Barry Grant Jr. is still the point leader. That's all I'm saying. Or does this point? Wait, how close? I got to be really close to
you
him.
in third. I think you jumped. I think you jumped me now.
Did I jump him?
I think you jumped me now.
You have not. I'm looking at the point totals right now. Let's see. You are 50 points behind Barry Grant Jr. I can't update the leaderboard just yet until next week. You are 50 points. We're gonna have to get you and Barry in next week. And listen, I'm not gonna try and rig it to get y'all the final round.
He's got to show up next week. He can't let me take the lead. He can't let me take the lead, man.
Well, listen, both of y'all are in a collision course. And by the way, so is Alfred. And Devin is very much in the mix as well. I mean, one great final round by Devin, and we could potentially have him very much in that mix as well. But
that's right.
Shout out to everybody here. Congratulations to Mike Guido, the winner of this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot. A shout out to Devin Nettles, to Alex Johnson, and to our newcomer, Dylan Lima. Fantastic job by all of you guys. That is it for this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot. Be sure to catch next week's episode once again at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday night on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. Fantastic stuff tonight. Very fun. Always love doing the 8 o'clock spot. And of course, tune in, subscribe to the Gryd Network, follow all of our social media platforms, follow all of our content creators' social media platforms, and subscribe to all of our awesome content creators. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We will see you guys next week. Fantastic show tonight, fellas. See y'all the show before Thanksgiving. It's going to be fun. God bless y'all. Peace out and go Steelers, Devin.